Guten Tag, meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren. Ich begrüße Sie aus Genf in der Schweiz, wo morgen Abend das Escher Quartett ihr Schweizer Debüt machen werden. Da dieses Quartett am 30. Mai unsere Esterházy Streichquartett Festival 2013 eröffnen wird, wollten wir Ihnen diese 4 sehr talentierten Musiker vorstellen. Gentlemen, first we'd like to find out when was the Escher Quartett founded and what were your motivations for deciding to become quartet musicians instead of going into solo careers and doing other things?
Well, we actually started together in about, I think it was 2005, and the 4 of us at the time met each other at the Manhattan School in New York, and we were just studying there, you know, so it wasn't necessarily something that we wanted to do professionally at that point. We just started playing together, and I think it was just sort of a combination of circumstances. Our first coach was actually David Sawyer, who was the longtime cellist of the Guarneri Quartet, and he was such a great mentor and such an inspiration. I think that he was actually one of the main motivations that kind of made us want to stick together and to really make it happen. So somehow it just worked out, and basically as we all transitioned out of school, we sort of transitioned into the professional life of quartet musicians. And as the quartet progressed, we've had a couple of membership changes, so Dane has been with us for, seems like forever now, but
almost
I guess
3 years.
It's about 3 years, and then Aaron actually just joined this fall, so we're very excited to have him, and things are going really well, and we're very happy to play together. So.
Can you say something about why did you pick MC Escher as the godfather of your quartet?
I think Escher's work is something his work is an example of an artist who's taken the ideas of science and mathematics and used them to create great art. And so we find that there are so many parallels between, you know, using science and sort of proportions and working all of these elements together into creating, you know, kind of a musical whole. And then also there's this concept of tessellation that he developed, equal division of a plane, and where he takes different, very simple elements and fits them together to make a more complex and beautiful whole.
Because we're sitting here eating the famous Esterházy Schnitten, did you have any knowledge of Esterházy and the Haydn Hall before we offered you this concert to come to Austria? Was this something you was on your radar?
I think almost any classical musician definitely knows about the name Esterházy especially because of the Haydn connection. And I was very happy to learn that they were continuing as a foundation, and that they have a, you know, beautiful hall there, and that we could travel there and play a concert. So I think all those things are very nice.
Now, you guys may agree or disagree on this, but obviously Haydn, for our audience members that don't know, was a court composer at the Esterházy, for the Esterházy family for over 40 years, is known as the father of the modern string quartet. Yes. And how do you gentlemen feel about playing his music, and do you think that the transparency and the seeming simplicity of the music creates any special challenges for you? And is it a simplicity of sound that is what's the word I'm looking for? That's not simple at all.
Well, I think as the cellist of the group, I can speak to that. The cello parts in Haydn quartets are sort of notoriously, at least among cellists, notoriously simple. But it is that simplicity that makes them so difficult to really do a wonderful job with. I'm probably playing maybe 1/8 or 1/16 of the number of notes that the first violinist plays in a Haydn quartet, but you know, to really play those notes in a way that does justice to the music and contributes well to the whole is extremely difficult. And so I think that, like as you say, the simplicity of the sound, the purity of the composition is very difficult to sort of capture and project and do justice to.
Another question. You gentlemen just played for, as part of our Esterházy preview series in New York, a concert for us at the Austrian Cultural Forum. How did it go? Was it a good concert?
It was a tough program.
Yeah.
Because we, of course, played the Prokofiev. And we played the second Zemlinsky Quartet. And a lot of the concerts this season have music that I have that's going to contain first performances for me, and that was one of them. I'd like to add that the one tomorrow does not. I've played all of these many times. But the concert in January, the Zemlinsky was new to me, and that's a tough piece, and so that was a tough concert. But we made it to the end pretty well.
But we're bringing it again to Esterházy.
Getting back to that, I've got some questions about the Eisenstadt program. Let's start off with Elgar. Because Elgar, for example, is one of my favorite composers, but he's really not very popular in Central Europe. So what do you guys think about that? Why is it that way? And how does it affect your offering that in this part of the world?
Elgar never was very popular, by the way.
Why?
In fact, his music is, especially the quartet, some of the most intimate and confessional and pained and really emotional music written of the Romantic era. I find Elgar's is in complete intoxicating. The violin concerto we both love. The symphonies I've loved my whole life, and I've loved the quartet my whole life. And so it's a really wonderful experience to play the quartet.
The other thing I wanted to ask, of course, about is Alexander von Zemlinsky, which, of course, as a Jew who had to emigrate from Austria, had a very difficult life in Austrian music directly prior to World War II. How does it feel for you folks? I mean, I have to admit that I had a certain, I don't want to say agenda, but a reason for hoping and asking you guys to please play Zemlinsky and Eisenstadt. How do you feel about that?
Well, Zemlinsky Second String Quartet, I have a lot of feeling for that piece, in part because I wrote a thesis about that specific quartet. And I think it's one of the great masterpieces. It was not very often played. It's almost like if Mahler had written a string quartet. If you think about Mahler's music, he says, like, you know, when you write a symphony, you need to encompass the entire world, you know, and I think Zemlinsky in some ways gets very close to that in that quartet. So therefore, you have a lot of, you know, responsibilities as a performer when you play such a piece. It's like an epic quartet among other quartets.
Now, of course, the last piece on the program, Mozart. Okay, do you play it with? Do you approach his music with respect, trepidation, boredom? No, I'm just interested because Mozart is so often I can't speak English anymore. Messlatte, the sort of measuring stick for so many musicians in so many different genres.
So, in a way, Mozart is something that should be approached with trepidation and respect, but you also just have to be in the right space to appreciate it. And there is sort of a reverential space there, I think, that is ideal for Mozart. And so, you know, ideally you can capture that without a near-death experience. But
I, for one, would love to know if Mozart has gotten more difficult to play over the centuries or not. And I very often wonder if in 1785 people could play Mozart as naturally as people in 1905 would improvise ragtime or something like that. It was so natural and so idiomatic to their culture that it wasn't as impossible as it has become for us now. There's something very difficult. It's like, look, for me, even the simplest Mozart quartets, like scaling this impossible peak. And I know that I won't get to the top, and I know that we won't get to the top, but I wonder how high we'll get this time, how close we'll get. To me, Mozart is the impossible task.
What is it like to take in a new partner in a long-standing quartet? What are the challenges and opportunities about that? I guess I'm asking the other three gentlemen about that one.
Yes.
Well, I think, I mean, being in a quartet, it's such a unique experience. When you change 1/4 of that equation, it basically changes everything. It's basically completely different and it's completely new. In a lot of ways, I mean, we spent a long time auditioning violinists to try to find someone that we really felt like we would have that certain, just where we wouldn't have to just force it until it worked, but where it just worked anyway. And with Aaron, we read with him one time, and then we asked him if he wanted to. We literally read with him for maybe a couple of hours before we asked him, because it was very clear after we played with enough people that when it was the right one. So in a certain way, it is very challenging, of course, and I think that we're making, I mean, things change so quickly when we have since we started playing with him, things have felt so different, almost on a daily basis. But at some level, it already felt fine when we started playing with him.
Do you have any special plans for the immediate future besides coming to Esterházy next month? In 2 months, I mean.
Well, it's hard to just think of one thing, but we're just very excited to keep coming up with new ideas and sort of just, there are some things that we're trying to develop right now. It's hard to really talk about it specifically.
We've got some top secret plans that people can look forward to.
So people have to keep checking www.escherquartett.com.
And if the price is right, I will happily endorse this cake.
And that's true.
It's extremely tasty.
And I'm going to take some home to New York.
You're great. And I'd like to thank you four gentlemen for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this interview.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our pleasure.